Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my Karen daughter is demanding that I pay for her mother's college tuition. We divorced 20 years ago. I, male 58, and my daughter, who's 27, are in a huge argument over money. A little background first. My ex-wife and I divorced before our daughter was even 1 year old. Custody fights were brutal until she was 9. Her mom lived in an apartment on the rough side of town, and when she was with me, she had an upper middle class life. She had ponies and private coaches for sports that she liked. Her mom liked to make me out as the bad guy to her. Yes, I probably tried to make sure that she knew I was not what her mother told her. When it came time for college, she had a full scholarship to major institutions, including one where I went as an undergrad and another where I went postgrad. Her mother told her that she should never pick a school that I went to. In the end, she picked a college where she only got a 20% scholarship. I told her that that was her choice and she would need to work to cover the cost. I also gave her $500 a month allowance. After graduation and through grad school, I continued doing that. After she moved on and was working, the only time I saw her was when she needed money for something. After never returning calls or texts that I sent, she shows up at my house. During her stay, I asked when she thought her student loan payments would be due and how much they would be. She then said that they would be around $200. I, in hindsight, was foolish in offering to pay them for her. She then said that her mother was also just finishing college and asked if I would pay her loans as well. I explained that we had been divorced for over 20 years now, and what her mother does is not my responsibility. My daughter blew up and said that I was being unfair because I had done much better than her mom and I needed to help her. She then said she never wanted to see me again. Am I the jerk for saying, fine, then don't show up looking for money for car repairs or anything, and that she needs to get her phone off my cell plan? Update. The only time I sent my daughter money was while she was in college. After college, it was her showing up, only when she needed money for something. After getting her master's, she was unable to find a job that she felt she could succeed in near her mother or myself, and is currently working a 6 to 7 hour drive away from both of us. One of the other questions seemed to say I only tried to buy her love. I was the pretty involved dad, attending all of her school events, coaching sports teams, and officer in the PTSA. She will always be welcome to come home, but she can't just show up and treat me like an ATM. Several comments were how could I allow my former wife to live in what I called a bad part of town. My former wife has been married and divorced 2 times after our relationship broke. Her mother's life choices were hers, and she was responsible for them. During the years that I paid child support, the amount I was paying her was more than she was paying for rent. Having a pony or private coaches does not make us middle class. The wife and I were lower middle class at best growing up. Our parents were hardworking and they loved us. Because of that, we wanted to provide both our daughters that fairy tale childhood. We made sacrifices so both of our daughters had that life. Before anyone says it, my wife had a daughter before we met that is 6 months younger than my daughter. No, to me, she is not my stepdaughter. She's my daughter. I'm the only father she has ever known, and I love both my daughters with all my heart. Not the jerk. Your daughter made poor decisions. Ex-wife is not your problem. Daughter is 27 and no longer your responsibility. You helped her through undergrad and grad school. Poor choices like declining full scholarships are what lead to being in a better or worse financial state. Now she wants you to bear the consequences of her poor choices and support your long-gone ex? You can let her walk away guilt-free. I would recommend some sort of middle path where you can both cool off and maintain a relationship, but not at the expense of being emotionally and financially manipulated. Not the jerk, but I fathom why a parent would encourage their kid to turn down a full-ride scholarship and have their kid starting out saddled with debt. We live in America, and education, like healthcare, is ridiculously expensive, especially when there was an alternative. Your daughter uses you for money and doesn't respect you. She respects her mom, and that's the only parent she listens to. She feels as if you owe both of them. It's up to you to figure out if that's the price you want to continue to pay to have her in your life. You're the jerk. Why do rich people always hoard their money instead of helping others with it? At the end of the day, this is the woman who had your daughter for you. Helping pay your daughter's student loans is literally the bare minimum, and you don't deserve any sort of award for it. Helping your ex would be the right thing to do, but I don't expect you to do it. Rich, greedy men like you are exactly why I'm perfectly fine living on my SSI income instead of wasting my days away at some job that I'd hate. People like you don't deserve any of the money you have, And if I can get a piece of it, thanks to systems that have been set in place by our government, you bet your butt I'm going to take advantage of it. Sorry, not sorry. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his daughter? Please let us know. I think that last commenter was the biggest jerk of them all. That's gotta be one of the most Reddit things I've heard in a while. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that I hate her new job? My wife, 37 female, and I, 38 male, have been married for 12 years and we have 3 kids who are 10, 8, and 6. During lockdown, my wife's job allowed her to switch to 100% work from home. They never required her to go back to the office because her productivity actually increased, so there was no need. It made things easier for us too. I dropped the kids off at school and daycare in the morning, and she picked them up in the afternoon. She was able to keep up with a few things around the house during the day. We saved on gas and car maintenance, etc. A few months ago, she was contacted by a recruiter about a job. It would be a nice step up in her career path as well as a boost in pay, but there were drawbacks. The company had no work from home policy and would require her to work in the office. This was apparently non-negotiable. It would also be a 45-minute commute for her. We talked it over a lot, and I expressed my concerns about how this would impact our daily lives. I told her that I don't necessarily think that the bump in pay is worth the major changes to our daily lives. Not to mention the stress that a long commute can have on people, and that could impact their mood and how they interact at home. She assured me that everything would be fine and that we would adjust as a family, and soon the new routine would just become our new normal. I told her that I would never tell her to not take the job, but I just don't know if it's worth the changes that it's going to bring. Ultimately, the decision was hers, and she accepted the new job. She's been there for about 10 weeks now. To say it's been an adjustment is an understatement. She wakes up and leaves before the kids even get up. She'll help get a few things ready for them before she goes, but the entire morning kids routine is now on me. I also do both drop-off and pick-up for all of the kids too. Evenings have been a huge mess because I get home and try to get the kids distracted while I start dinner. When my wife gets home, she's usually stressed from the drive. Her commute has turned into over an hour due to construction and traffic and takes 15 minutes for herself to calm down before eating alone. Then after dinner, she's going to bed earlier because she has to wake up earlier. I told her that I feel her new job has put an unfair amount of household and childcare duties on me and that she's being far less present in our lives when she's home. She's told me that we just need to give it more time to adjust and things will get easier. I told her that 10 weeks is a pretty good adjustment period and I hate it so far. She told me I'm being an unsupportive jerk and that I need to give it more time. Edit. I don't have the emotional bandwidth right now to deal with the huge amount of comments that I'm getting here. Those kinds of responses are why men don't open up when they feel exactly like I do right now and just bottle things up. I have to get ready to pick up my kids. They're getting Happy Meals tonight because forget it. Everyone sucks here. You two are talking past each other. You say you wanted to come up with solutions, but you don't suggest any actual solutions. She was dismissive of your concerns and also didn't suggest any solutions. She's making more money. Use that to outsource some of this stuff. As a general matter, I don't think it's fair to expect that over the course of a lifetime, your spouse's career will never require you to pick up the slack at home. These things tend to shift. She handled more stuff while she was work from home. Now it's your turn. If it's unsustainable for you, then absolutely talk about solutions. But I hate it is not a solution. OP. I did offer solutions, but the character limit prevented me from including every single aspect of this. Some of my solutions were doing meal prep on weekends so dinner time is easier, or possibly ordering meal kits. Those were things we agreed on. But others, like me telling her she needs to find a way to be more present in our daily lives because me and the kids feel like we never see her, were met with more hostility from her. I get your point, but that's not a solution, just a complaint. Maybe something like have a fixed time for her to recover when she comes home and a fixed time to spend with family would be a better suggestion. Make some new family traditions. Maybe even something silly, like a loving phrase you say to each other that signifies her having fully arrived at home. I'm sure she doesn't want you and the kids to feel neglected, so if her reaction is negative, it's about the delivery. This is your chance to find creative solutions. Who knows? Maybe you have a mandatory, to a degree, cuddle time every day, and maybe your kids will remember that fondly forever. I understand you're frustrated with the situation, but this can either be a tough time in your family relationships, or it can be the start of something new, with the potential for being an awesome thing. It's up to the both of you what it ends up being. You came up with good solutions, but this is all on your wife at the moment. OP told her that he and the kids feel like she's not present in their lives anymore, and that's the truth. but they were met with even more hostility. She's not listening, and she's the one that needs to change. Not the jerk. I don't understand the people saying it's your time to do it when you've pointed out the fact that before her new job, you both used to split the kids' routine together, and I don't see what the issue is with keeping up with housework since she worked from home. It seems like you had a good dynamic going on and balanced teamwork. Because that's not what he described. His words make it sound like he's just sad that she's not doing as much at home anymore, not that they had an equal balance before. You're the jerk. Why is it too much to expect men to support their partner's advancement and career when women do it all the time? Suck it up, soldier. These are your kids too. Genuinely curious if you'd say the same if this were a wife with the exact same complaint about her husband's new job. You're the jerk. She was doing all that and more while she was working from home. Time for you to step up and be an equal parent and not stifle your partner's nice step up in her career path as well as a boost in pay. What a hypocrite. Guy I went to school with refused to say that he knew me, then he got upset when he wanted something from me. My wife and I had a New Year's resolution to do more hands-on volunteer work this year. So me, being an IT guy, I found a group that refurbishes computers for students. I thought it was a slam dunk, sounded like an easy thing to do, and it was aligned with what I do for a living. On my first day and orientation, I ran into a guy that I went to school with around 10 years ago. I spent 3 years in school with this guy and I immediately recognized him. The guy is on my LinkedIn as well, so I know him. We did projects together. There are pictures of us at graduation. I 100% know the guy. I went over to say hi and he was sort of evasive about saying anything to me. I was initially confused because I thought we were on good terms. When I said, "Hey man, it's me from school," he said he knew who I was, but apparently once graduation was done, he decided to move on from school and be done with it. He told me he wanted to deal with adults and wanted nothing to do with people he went to school with. This was despite the fact that we were now in our 30s, so we weren't exactly students anymore. So that kind of hurt, but whatever. I respected his decision and I left him alone. There were a dozen other people there, so I went about with orientation and everything. I didn't see the guy again for the rest of the day. A couple hours later, when we were all done, I had met a few people who were actually sociable, and we decided to go across the street to a pub. I was in a good mood, and I told them the first round was on me because I had a good day. So we go over to the pub, and that guy shows up and sits down at the table. I ask, "What are you doing here? I'm not buying you a drink. You don't know me." The guy called me a jerk and a bunch of other names and then walked away. I explained the situation to the group I was with, and they were all like, "What?" I got an email from the event coordinator yesterday. Apparently the guy complained about me, said I'm not a team player. Luckily, the coordinator heard my side of the story and was fine with it, so I'm good. But I have to continue dealing with this guy if I continue going to volunteer. So, what on earth? I like the organization and I'd want to continue with it. A few people have mentioned to me that I should have just bought the guy a drink, but out of principle, I won't buy a drink for someone who disrespects me. Am I the jerk for telling the guy to leave the table at the pub? Edit. This was a college friend, not a high school friend. More info. I messaged another guy I went to school with who also knows the guy. He told me that they used to hang out a lot until around 4 years ago, when out of the blue, the guy just stopped talking to him. He sent him a crazy long text message, basically saying the same thing that he said to me. "I moved on, and I don't want to associate with old classmates." Not the jerk. Guy's really gonna tell you he doesn't want anything to do with you and still expect you to buy him a drink? The man you used to be friendly with at school flat out told you he wanted to move on and have nothing to do with his old classmates from so long ago. Now, by the time you and the other volunteers went to the pub across the road, old classmate may have reconsidered. Or maybe he thought he could get a free drink, or he wanted to sit with the other volunteers and you were just there too. Or who knows what he was thinking, to sit at the table. But you made it clear you weren't going to buy him a drink and he didn't like that. Sucks for him, not the jerk. Fake vegetarian on a flight. I'm a cabin crew, flight attendant. I've been working this job for over 10 years now. Any issues that crop up during my workday, I will bend over backwards to accommodate people if I can. However, there are unfortunately a handful of people that are dishonest to try and get what they want. Fake injuries to try to get upgraded, fake birthdays, you name it, people have tried it. And believe me, I've had loads of scenarios where people try to cheat the system because it makes them feel special or that they have one-upped me, I guess. Let me tell you about a fake vegetarian I had on board. He was flying in economy, coach, and the second from last row. He wanted the pasta option. I apologized and told him due to popular demand, we had run out in the middle of the cabin, but we did have the chicken option instead if he wanted that. Without skipping a beat, he said, "I'm a vegetarian. Last time they brought me a meal from the business class, so I'll just wait for that." Now, this is something I would have offered anyway as a nicety, if available, as I'm not too much of a jerk and I genuinely like helping people out if I can. After all, it's a 747, not a 7-Eleven, as the saying goes. Anyway, the way he just expected it right off the bat, before I could even offer a solution, left a slightly bad taste in my mouth. And also I smelled a rat. I was 99% sure that I had cleared away an empty wrapper of smoky bacon crisps from him earlier on. And no, they weren't a veggie brand, as I have the same ones occasionally. I was certain that he was being picky and wanted a higher quality meal. Plus, any regular flyer would know how often we run out of the veggie options and to pre-order a veggie meal. I said, "It's unfortunate that you didn't pre-order a vegetarian meal. I will see what I can do for you though. Just give me 5 minutes to finish up here." I went up to business class. They had also run out of the veggie option, so I went up to first class and asked if they could spare anything. We ended up putting a few leaves together with a bit of dressing. They spend thousands more up there and can dine at any time they want to, so they didn't want me taking any of the hot veggie options in case someone wanted it later. Fair enough. Then I thought, I could probably have some fun with this fake vegetarian. Cue malicious compliance. I brought it back down on a silver tray and held it above his eye line so he couldn't see what it was. I explained that unfortunately, the vegetarian business class option had run out. Then he went to cut me off so he could complain, but I held up my hand and said, "However, I managed to go one step further and I got the last vegetarian meal from first class." Then I pulled the linen cloth off the top of the tray as I placed the salad down right in front of him. It was a very basic but large salad, and his face said it all. His face went from a smug, "Haha, I worked the system," to, "What is this?" within 3 seconds flat. He then said, "I wanted something hot. I'll just have the chicken then." I put on a shocked face and said, "I can't give you that, sir. I would feel awful." He responded with, "Don't worry about it. It's fine." I gave him an, "Are you sure you're vegetarian?" look, and I brought back the chicken, by which point it had sat drying up in the oven a little bit longer. Bon appetit. Just to say, even if he was a real vegetarian, he should have pre-ordered. Same goes for gluten-free, vegan, kids meals, diabetic, etc. Anyways, that's my story. I don't know who I married. I know the title might sound dramatic, and I know my family is my responsibility, but some tips or advice would be appreciated. Before someone says I shouldn't have kids if I'm poor, it's too late to not have them. I posted last week about how my wife did the bi-weekly grocery store run and had $35 to get what was needed, and she spent $7 of it on Evian waters. Before she left, I offered to make her a jug of ice water because it's hot, and I knew that she was going to get thirsty. Her jug is a $50 Stanley cup. Even though it was bought months ago, it was out of our budget, but she begged for it and swore she would use it all the time. We don't get food stamps because I make too much. I work full-time and pick up as much overtime as I can while my wife stays at home with our kids. I do everything I can to stay afloat. She tells me they were on sale and she just wanted it. That is not a sale. I immediately got frustrated because we don't have money for needs, let alone wants. She's embarrassed by going to the food pantries, so I try to do it on my lunch breaks or on my one day off. We have a tight budget. I walk to work to save gas. I pick up overtime when it's available, and I'm at the point where there aren't enough hours in the day for just me to make enough money to get us to break even. I told her she needed to find some part-time work. She's been a stay-at-home mom because daycare is expensive, but now all but one of our kids are in school. Today, she told me she would need a new interview outfit and to get her hair cut. I said we don't have money for that. Our fridge completely died a few days ago. She then started talking about all of the things she would be doing or buying for herself once she starts working. I told her the money would be going towards getting caught up on bills, getting the kids what they need, and to maybe start saving a few bucks. She said it would be her money, which caught me off guard because my paycheck isn't considered mine, nor have I ever insinuated that it is. Our kids only got one pair of new school shoes this year and no clothes. It bothered me more than it did them. My oldest has a field trip next week that she won't be able to go to because we don't have the $50. My wife chose bougie water over a few gifts from the Dollar Tree for our kids. When I asked why she doesn't care that our kids are going without, her response is, "It's only one birthday they're missing. Field trips aren't that big of a deal. At least they have something to wear to school. Very nonchalant, it is what it is attitude. She had a rough childhood where she never got celebrated, got gifts, never had new school clothes, etc. So it's not a big deal to her. I've never seen this side of her and I don't like it. We've never been so poor, so is this just her survival mode method? Please contact your daughter's school. They often have funds to help out for kids who need extra to go on field trips. I never would have thought until I needed it for my son. Doesn't sound like a partnership, two people working together towards a common goal. Pretty painful when one partner does the complete opposite. Your wife sounds incredibly self-centered and in a lot of ways like she never matured past the kid who didn't get anything, so now she wants it all for herself. You're right to be concerned about her selfish attitude. Your wife is embarrassed by going to the food pantry, but not embarrassed she spent $7 out of the $35 for groceries on fancy water? I don't comment often and tell people to separate from their spouses, but this might be something to potentially think about if she's really more concerned about nice water over her kids getting new clothes for school, or just experiencing being a kid in general. We were poor growing up, but my mom always made sure we had clothes and were able to attend birthday parties and field trips. She's being very self-centered. Am I the jerk for kicking my husband's friend and his daughter out of my home, knowing they have nowhere to go? I, 32 female, and my husband, 32 male, live with our sons, who are 12 and 14, and our 3 cats. My husband has ASD, which makes it hard for him to maintain a job. This hasn't been a problem for me, as I make a decent wage and can afford a modest but decent life for our family of 4. In 2020, my husband worked at a fast food restaurant for a couple months and met a homeless man who he quickly became friends with. We'll call him Rob, he's 42. One cold night, Rob and his then girlfriend asked to stay with us for a while. We had a guest room, and though uncomfortable, I agreed. After a week, their nightly arguments between each other and general household hygiene were too much to bear, so I kicked them out. When they left, the guest room was trashed, and there were pills everywhere. As a mother, this really disturbed me, and I've never stopped being wary of Rob. Fast forward to July 1st, 2023. Our guest room has turned into a storage room, and it would take work to get it livable again. Rob has broken up with his girlfriend and has gotten custody of his daughter, who's 15, from a different woman, and her 8-month-old puppy. Rob was sick of living with his parents and burned bridges with them. My husband came to me panicked one evening, asking me to go pick them up, because they have nowhere else to go. For context, only I drive. Reluctantly, I again agreed to host Rob, mostly because I can't stand his daughter. We'll call her Anne, being on the street. With the guest room out of commission, they take my elder son's room. Both my sons have bunk beds, so I figure it will be manageable temporarily. Initially, Rob promises to be out in a week. I knew it was a lie, as he had no money and no plans, but I wasn't concerned that it would take longer. My sons are in online school, so he promises to be out by the time school starts, 8:14, so my son can use his room for school. Another lie. Living with these two has been awful. They don't pay rent or do chores. Rob only works about 3 days a week. Anne eats all our expensive snack food and refuses to eat meals that I cook. She ate 12 ice cream cones in 3 days, my son's whole month of treats. Rob has ruined our yard with cigarette butts and trash everywhere. Their dog has dug in multiple places and they're not training him not to. My son's room is trashed by them and they've broken dishes. They don't clean the sink after using it and they don't flush the toilet. Living with them is driving me crazy. Anne is spoiled, but she is very sweet and she is a kid. I don't like Rob, but he says that he's gotten sober. At this point, I'm the only one who cleans, cooks, and pays bills, and I can't do it for 2 extra people. I told my husband I want them gone before my son turns 15 in October. He said I'm being unreasonable. They have nowhere to go. I told him a shelter may have resources for them, and I can't handle this anymore. It's not my fault they're in this situation, and I can't live like this. And I don't think my sons deserve this either. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your home is your sanctuary and your safe, happy place. Having Rob and his daughter there is disturbing your life, not to mention that they're not respecting your home. Your husband needs to be more understanding. Yes, they don't have any place to go, but they're not your responsibility. They were initially supposed to be out by 8:14. They've already overstayed their welcome. You shouldn't have to give up your comfort and peace of mind to accommodate Rob. I'd kick them out ASAP before they can claim squatter rights. Not the jerk. Your husband is so out of line here. You owe these people nothing. You've already gone far above and beyond, taking in homeless strangers along with their problems, their kids, their bad hygiene, their fighting, and then eating you out of house and home. They don't help. You're supporting a bunch of freeloaders. What else are you supposed to do? You pay the bills, take care of the kids, your husband works part-time, and you're having essentially no say in your own home. Girl, stop asking your husband and get these beans out of your home. Change the locks and be done with it. Again, you owe them nothing and you're putting your own kids at risk. How your husband doesn't see this is absolutely mind-boggling. Get them out yesterday, not the jerk. So many of these Reddit stories really make me appreciate the simplicity of my life. Am I the jerk for refusing to forgive my ex so his mistress can have him? My husband and I had some marital issues after the birth of our second baby. There was no lack of love or affection, at least that's what he told me. We still loved each other and we're basically in a rough place. My husband met his now girlfriend at work, and I guess he developed some sort of feelings for her and her for him. He came to me one day and said that he loved me so much, but that he wanted a break for a few months because we needed to work out our issues separately. I was heartbroken, but I agreed, thinking we were going to work out our marriage. Not a week later, I heard that he was hooking up with her. I filed for divorce and haven't seen him since. This was all 3 years ago. Our divorce was finalized 2 years ago. He has tried throughout the years to get in contact with me, but I refuse to even open his emails because I miss him and I know what he would be saying. Empty sorries and apologies. For me, he cheated, even if not everyone agrees because we were on a break. His girlfriend contacted me now asking me to forgive him because according to her, he's refusing to make their relationship official. According to her, they love each other, but he's refusing to propose or start a family with her because he feels guilty about what he did to me. He tells her that they didn't deserve happiness and she thinks it's all my fault. I just wrote, "Please don't contact me again," and I blocked her on Facebook. She used alternative accounts and wrote that I'm bitter and vindictive. Am I the jerk for refusing to do this? Help my ex's mistress play family with him? How is that even on me? Not the jerk. I'm proud of you for divorcing. Too many people will put up with this for too long. And sorry, but my opinion is, when you're married and on a break, you're still married, so his cheating was not okay. You thought you were going to reconcile. There was no conversation about seeing other people. You don't owe him or his girlfriend anything, and the fault is his. He cheated while you were thinking you were working on your marriage. Just ignore these fools. My Karen neighbor reported me to the HOA for having a wood-burning fireplace. I, 25 male, own a lakeside property that was legally and officially given to me by my parents. I've been living here for 6 years, and I have some great neighbors along with some not-so-great ones. Out of all my neighbors, I've only ever had problems with one who lives right next door, named Mariette. She first moved in early this summer as she had the former house on her property demolished and rebuilt. My problem started with her over the use of my wood stove and fireplaces. With the temperatures getting colder, I've started to use them daily. My house is not equipped with any form of heating outside of the wood stove and a fireplace. This means that from fall until spring, I will constantly have them going to keep my place warm. My family never outfitted the home with anything better because it was for weekend trips, and we would winterize and leave it when things got cold. My parents thought of adding oil heating when I moved in. However, I was opposed to it because it was a waste of money, and I didn't mind splitting logs. 5 days ago, after having received my shipment of logs for the fall, I was approached by my neighbor Mariette. She came around asking for my parents, to which I said that they don't live here and that I am the homeowner. She didn't believe me and said that I was too young to be a homeowner before leaving. Later that day, I heard a knock at my door and thought it was my girlfriend, so I gave my usual greeting of, "Hey, sweet cheeks," while opening the door. Unfortunately, it was not her, and it was Mariette again, so I apologized quickly and asked what she wanted. Once again, she wanted to speak with my parents, to which, in a more stern tone, I said that I was the homeowner. This time, she finally got it and said that I'm violating HOA policy by using wood-burning fireplaces indoors and outdoors. In response, I said that as new as the house looks, I'm not a member of the group and that the town permits fireplaces and burning yard waste. She then went on to ask why I even needed them because they do nothing but harm the environment. I went on to explain that while the house exterior looks new, the house actually has been around since 1930 and still uses a wood stove and fireplace heating. She didn't believe me yet again and said she would be back with an inspector. Yesterday, once again she came with another person who introduced themselves as the HOA inspector. They tried to talk about my fireplaces, but I shut them down immediately and said that I'm not a member of their group. The guy then tried to lie by saying that the HOA is in control of all the properties in the area. I immediately called him out on the lie and said that he's either lazy or a moron for not knowing that I am not with them. We went back and forth one more time before I told them I will not listen to them and to stuff it and leave. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. If this continues, inform the HOA that if they continue to harass you, you have no issues looking into legal counsel. Also, let your neighbor know that she's not allowed on your property, and if she comes over, she's trespassing. I would tell the HOA the same as the neighbor. They're not to step foot on your property or you will involve the police. In my state, I think it's best to send that in writing by certified mail and keep the proof they received it so there isn't any question when you call the police. Not the jerk. Sounds like she's going to be a real pain. As much as I hate to say it, it's time to lawyer up, or you're going to be harassed by her and the HOA. Have you ever lived somewhere with an HOA? If so, what did you think of them? Please let us know. I prefer living somewhere with no HOA, but I also prefer living somewhere with no neighbors. People kind of suck. Am I the jerk for reporting my daughter's car missing after her stepbrother took it without permission? I got my daughter, who's 17, a new car 2 months ago. Her stepbrother, who's 19, has gone crazy about it ever since and has been attempting to drive it, but my daughter made it clear she doesn't want him to. He'd refer to it as our car and would get mad when my daughter decorates it with pink and adds teddy bears and necklaces as decoration. He'd get angry and say that she was ruining their car and embarrassing him in front of his friends, although she never let him get inside of it. I asked my husband to talk to his son, but he said that my daughter and I need to chill. Fast forward to this past Friday. My daughter called me at work saying her stepbrother took her car while she was upstairs after he demanded the keys and she refused. I called his phone, but he didn't respond. I called my husband and I told him what happened. I told him that he needed to go bring the car back or I'd have to call the police. He called his son, then called me back, saying his son was just taking it to go to the movies with his friends and will bring it back at 9 p.m. I couldn't wait. I warned him one more time to bring it back, but he stalled. I called the police and reported it stolen. My stepson was picked up from his location and brought into the local police station. We got the car back, but it was a mess. The decorations and toys in it were gone. My daughter didn't stop crying about it. My husband blew up at me on the phone for calling the police on his son and causing him to spend the night there. They both came home the next day and a huge argument ensued with my husband saying I made a mistake reporting the car missing and said that I escalated this situation and that I was the one who created it and I should have gotten his son a similar car or at least told my daughter to share hers. Otherwise, we wouldn't be dealing with his son's temper tantrums. The house has been full of tension since then and everyone is just mad at each other. I didn't want police involvement, but seeing my daughter cry, I just couldn't take it. This is weird. For the simple act of reporting the car stolen when it was in fact stolen, not the jerk. For marrying and subjecting yourself, and more importantly your daughter, to the environment created by your husband and stepson, you're the jerk. Get a divorce and get them as far away from your daughter as possible. Not the jerk. You told your husband to get the car back or you'd call the police. He and his son ignored you. You called the police. No one should be surprised. Why doesn't your husband buy his son a car? It sounds like your finances are separated. Does the kid work, go to school, do anything responsible with his life? Man, he's 19. He's a legal adult and he stole from his minor step-sibling. Man needs to man up and figure out this tantrum crap isn't going to blow over so easily. And now he's on the hook for legal consequences because he is, in fact, a legal adult. I can't imagine being 19 and so jealous of a high school junior I stole their car and threw their teddy bears away. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for calling the cops on him or not? Please let us know. Dude sounds like he's got more issues than Nintendo Power. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.